We are Haley and Cooper, and last year we bought a 1997 Winnebago to travel the United States. After 6 months of needed updates and fixes, we officially set off on our journey. We are currently headed out west and will be documenting our adventure here. Be sure to follow along to see where our journey takes us.
It has officially been 4 weeks of RV life, and this week was probably one of our busiest weeks that we've had yet.
Did a lot of traveling, went and did a lot of fun things, so we're excited to tell you about it.
Sunday, we were staying in Custer for an extra day. We were still waiting on a package to arrive, so with our extra time, we decided to go to Spearfish Canyon and Devil's Tower and kind of make a couple-hour drive out of the day with all the extra time.
We were originally planning on staying the night there and in Devil's Tower itself, but it just didn't work out because of that package. So we went to Spearfish Canyon. It was really beautiful.
However, it wasn't as exciting as we thought it was going to be. People were saying it's worth going out of your way like an hour or two to go through Spearfish Canyon. And if it's on your route, definitely go through it. It is very cool. But we didn't get the excitement from what we were seeing. There wasn't anything in Spearfish Canyon. It's just a road that goes through a canyon, obviously, but there weren't any cool towns or sightseeing places. And the really awesome part where there were super high valleys on both sides only lasted like half a mile at the end.
And I think it was also hard because we've just been really blessed that we've gotten to go to so many beautiful places so far on this journey. So, I mean, if you're only going to Custer in that area and you're not really exploring anywhere else in South Dakota or in the future when we go to Wyoming, I could totally see this being really worth it. But we went an hour out of our way because this was really hyped up. And then we went on this trail to go see this waterfall. And it was like really pretty and it was really nice. But it was this like baby little waterfall and this really cool canyon. But I think, again, we've just been really blessed to see so much really cool stuff on this trip, so it didn't feel as amazing as like the hype.
Yeah, so it would be worth going to if you're in the area, but definitely not worth going multiple hours out of your way in our opinion. So and then after that we went to the town of Spearfish, which is a town probably like 20 minutes outside of Spearfish Canyon. We sat at a cool little park and had a picnic for lunch.
That was really fun. It was just like very wholesome with all these kids playing and stuff on the Sunday, so we enjoyed that. And then we went to Devil's Tower. So most people would recommend staying in the area, and we probably would have as well just for the night because it was, I think, a 2 or so hour drive out and back. But again, because of the package, we just ended up staying in Custer, taking that really long drive out to Devil's Tower, which was really cool. I had only ever seen photos of it. It's not somewhere I'd ever been. Cooper's been whenever he was young, so that was awesome. Just with all of the really intricate shapes of it, and I didn't realize that the kind of reigning belief of how it was created was that it was a volcano and then the magma hardened and then the volcano exterior fell away. So the Devil's Tower is theoretically the magma that was in there before. And it was just really interesting, very unique, literally rises out of nothing, has these cool hexagonal formations down the side, the way the magma formed. So that was really awesome. Definitely would recommend. It's the only thing to do there though, so I mean, if you're going to stay, you probably can do the whole thing in a night and you would be fine.
From everything we've looked up to, it says the same thing. You go, it's really awesome. You hike around it. There's like a 1 to 2 mile trail that goes around it. It's really
easy.
Pretty easy, pretty flat.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, it does get very hot and dry out there. It's kind of in a desert. It's not a desert, but it's a drier
It's like area. Prairie desert that South Dakota has going on the west side.
But if you have time, definitely worth going out of your way to see Devil's Tower.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed the drive. Was amazing. And all the information at the visitor center and the park rangers was really cool too. And yeah, definitely worth a stop.
So after that, we headed back on another 2-hour journey back from Wyoming, because Devil's Tower is actually in Wyoming, not South Dakota, into the Custer area again. And we hadn't actually stopped by Crazy Horse yet. So this might be kind of controversial. We wanted to see it, but it's not completed. You can't get very close. So we're kind of like, maybe we'll just pull over on the side of the road and look at it from afar. So we didn't actually go in the visitor center. We figured that we would wait for that whenever it was a little bit farther done. They think it's going to take probably like 100 more years to actually finish this. So we saw it from afar, and that was really neat. But maybe next time, whenever we're here, years down the road, we'll go to the visitor center too.
And one of the things to keep in mind too, I think to visit Mount Rushmore, it was maybe $10. And you got a pass for the full year. In Crazy Horse, I think it's $30 to $35, and it's only a 1-day pass. And we didn't think it was really worth it because Mount Rushmore just seemed to have a little more history developed already inside of it with the build, and it was already completed. And so Crazy Horse would be interesting to go to with our schedule and our timing.
And our budget.
We just didn't think it was worth it at this time, but we are going to definitely go back and visit it in the future, maybe 20, 30 years when it's a little more done.
So that was last Sunday. And then after that, that was our last full day in Custer area. I say area because obviously we were in Devil's Tower. But on Monday, we went ahead and went to the Purple Pie place again. Cooper wanted to try a different pie, and I'm always down for some ice cream. So we hit that up and then actually headed out of the Custer area. So we were kind of sad to go. It was such a beautiful place. We really loved it. It was our favorite thus far. So definitely recommend. We could have stayed longer, but we had other things to get to. So we stayed the night in Gillette at a various Harvest Host on the way, and that was our first overnight in Wyoming, another state off the list. So that was pretty much what we did on Monday. That took up the whole time.
The Harvest Host was a single family farm that was raised locally, started out when she was younger with just some small chickens and vegetables and things like that, and she grew into this big farm. That is her full-time job. She has a few workers to help her with it, and it was really cool. We got to talk with the owner, and she was super nice. It took about 2 hours.
Yeah, something like that. And we got to do a lot of fun farm chores. So this particular farm is called Our Wyoming Life. Like we said, we came across it via Harvest Hosts. It was fun because we got to feed the calves, which I actually had a degree in animal science, so I got to do that before. But that was Cooper's first time, and so that was really fun. Got to see the chicks and all these different things. She has so many animals. Emus, peacock, turkeys, chickens, beef cattle. I don't even know.
She had
Cats, dogs, goats,
and sheep,
donkeys. Yeah, so anything you can imagine, it felt like she had it. And then this huge selection of various fruits and vegetables and things that she was growing throughout the year. So that was really cool getting to talk to her and just getting to spend some time with the animals.
Yeah, it was one of our favorite Harvest Hosts.
Yeah.
Both with the location, we had a cool sunset that night. And then there was also the farm store that we went to after the tour. We got some beef and bacon and brats that were phenomenal again.
Yeah. So that was Tuesday in the morning, and then we left and we're headed to Bighorn Canyon, which is just outside of Louisville, Wyoming. So whenever I was putting all of this together, I had been using this really awesome book that kind of gives you the idea of different tours and stuff. And I was linking up 2 different tours together, but I don't really know where anything is in Wyoming in the sense of I don't really know like what the topography is and the geographical region we're going through. So whenever I put this together months ago, I was like, okay, well then we'll go from Custer to Louisville. And unbeknownst to me, there's a mountain between Custer and Louisville. So we took our 1997 Winnebago up 4,000 feet and then back down again, which was more than an adventure and a half.
The big thing with this mountain is the grade. We learned we are not grade experts. We do not drive semi trucks, so we don't know what any of this means. When you're in a car, it doesn't really matter. But when you're in a larger vehicle with a lot of weight, the grade really affects your driving. So on the way up, there was no grade markers, but I would assume it was around 8%. It was maybe 15 miles to get to the top of the mountain, and it took us an hour and a half.
Yeah, we stopped a little bit on the way up just to let our engine cool back down, but otherwise didn't have a lot of trouble on the way up. The way down was interesting.
We were heading down and hit the peak, and there's a big sign that said RVs, you need to pull over. So we pulled over, and this sign said there is 10% grade, which if you don't know is extremely steep, and semi-trucks don't really drive on 10% grade. RVs don't, large vehicles don't unless they absolutely need to.
So at this point we're stuck because it takes us like an hour and a half to get to the top, and then about an hour driving around where it was like hilly but no grade level there before we're headed back down. So there's no other real way to get from this town we were in, which was in, I think Sheridan was the town on the other side of the mountain, to Louisville other than this. We would have had to backtrack hours down the way. So we're like trying to decide what the best thing to do is, and we're like, okay, well, we're just gonna have to do it. So we're seeing this sign, and it's like, this is all the truck runoff spots, and this is where you can pull over for your brakes to cool down. So all of this to say, we had too much an adventure going away down, but everything worked out okay. We stopped at the brake cool-off spot and definitely let our brakes cool for a while, and then stopped another 3/4 of the way down the mountain and just decided that we probably should have taken our tow car off beforehand, because now for some reason our tow dolly is smoking, and our tow dolly is losing some of it's getting bald on one of the tires, and
our brakes were smoking on the RV.
It's just a lot going on.
So what we did was we took the car off so we didn't have any weight on the tow dolly and extra weight on the RV. Probably should have done this at the beginning to prevent all
going
that extra
up the
weight.
mountain, but we're newbies, so figuring it out as we go.
And then to get down, we just shifted the RV into the lowest gear possible and went down, tried to go down at 5 to 10 miles an hour, but it was so steep. We were in first gear and we were speeding up past 30 miles an hour. So it was an adventure. It took us probably another hour to get down.
Yeah.
And then a storm was coming in, so it was super windy when we got down to the mountain. And
so then the awning tried to blow off again, as it does. So that was pretty much that whole journey. It was beautiful up there. I mean, we definitely recommend the drive
If you're in a
from,
car.
yeah, from Sheridan to Louisville, but we would not recommend it in an RV. There's definitely safer and flatter ways to go. And so what we really should have done is use an app that would have been more truck savvy from Gillette to Louisville rather than going all the way up to Sheridan and then trying over. So now we know.
But then we pulled into our campsite late at night and we just kind of pulled in, leveled. It looked really cool, but we were both very on edge from everything that was
Yeah.
happening, so we didn't really enjoy it too much. And then we woke up.
And we were staying in Bighorn Canyon. So it's the third largest canyon in the US. I had actually never heard of it before this book, like I was saying earlier, was kind of giving us these ideas for routes. So that was really awesome. We're staying in this campground called Horseshoe Bend Campground, and we were there for a number of days.
It was great. So we woke up and we were right on the lake, pretty
Yeah.
much as close as you could get. We had the mountains were amazing. There was bigger
Super
mountains
red. Yeah.
way back in the distance, and then there was like the foothills with the rolling ones. You can see all different layers in it, and with the blue lake and the red mountains, it really was probably the most beautiful campsite we've stayed at so far.
Yeah. So that was gorgeous. We loved that. I mean, the lake was so blue. It like looked aquamarine, and then the red of the mountains was gorgeous. So on Wednesday, we mostly just kind of explored around our campsite. We spent a lot of time trying to catch up on work because we had been spending so much time driving on both Monday and Tuesday. So Wednesday was pretty chill.
Thursday, then after work, we decided to explore the area a little more with the car, so we took it into the visitor center. Turns out it closed at 4 or 5 o'clock, and we were a little late. So we found a map outside and did our best on our own, and we went through the wild horse exhibit. It is actually the first official wild horse area in the entire United States. I think there's a couple of them now, so it's not the only anymore.
Right.
And we weren't thinking we were going to really see them because they're wild horses. They're pretty skittish. And within the first couple miles, we actually saw 3 of them right beside the road.
Very quickly. So that was really cool. This is all in the Bighorn National Recreation Area. So it's not actually a national park, but I think they kind of made it this little gem that there was almost nobody there. Most of the time in our campsite, I mean, maybe a third of it was full. Granted, we were there during the week, but having been in Custer where it was full almost all the time, this was super different. Definitely recommend if you're going to go over there because it was gorgeous. Seeing the Pryor Mountain wild horses, which were super cool. Driving through in general this Bighorn recreation area, and then we got to go see Bighorn Canyon itself.
Which this was definitely my favorite part. At least I don't know about Haley.
It was so beautiful.
We got to see one of the horseshoe bends in the river.
Yeah.
Which there's a really famous one, I believe, out in Utah or Arizona, one of the other big national parks. But this one is a lot lesser known. I haven't seen it on any apps that you need to go to. And it was amazing. It was like 1,000-foot drop off into the river, just sheer cliffs. And there was a horseshoe bend, which is pretty rare in rivers. And there was all this wind, so there was water vortexes being created, like little tornadoes on the water, and it was just super cool.
Yeah, it was so neat. Speaking of all the wind, this was a very, very windy place. So the first day we get there, we're like, oh wow, it's really windy. But we've had that before off and on in this trip, so we were like, okay, well, tomorrow will be better. And it was in the morning, and then in the afternoon it got super windy again, and the next day and the next day. So definitely something to keep in mind. It gets really, really windy there from like probably 3 o'clock until 7 for some reason. Like 30 to 40 mile per hour winds
every night.
But it was beautiful. We really enjoyed it. Bighorn Canyon was awesome. Seeing the horseshoe bend was so nice. Again, really cool to see the water vortexes. It's something I never expected to see. So we got to do that. We walked Sullivan's Knob Trail, which is around the corner and kind of gives you another perspective of seeing the canyon as well. So that was our Thursday.
One last thing on the hikes. The area is relatively flat for hiking. We went on a couple hikes and they're all fairly easy.
Right.
There were hills in them, but nothing was like climbing up rocks.
Yeah,
or
nothing extreme.
Walking on anything sketchy. So definitely worth hiking if you're in the area.
Yep. And then Friday was our last full day in Louisville / the Bighorn area in general. So we hiked to the mouth of the Canyon Trail, which that was fine. I mean, you got to see where it went from being like regular foothills to this really trenchy canyon. So that was kind of neat. It wasn't like an amazing hike, but I mean, if you have time and you're looking for another thing to do, you could definitely do that. That was in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we decided we were going to drive deeper into the Bighorn Canyon area.
The first stop we made, it was called the Indian Trail or Indian Tribute Trail or something like that. And it was this tribute to where all the Native Americans had like a homestead basically when they lived in there hundreds of years ago. And you could see all the stones from their teepees that were built in their housing. It was cool, but it was just rocks in a circle, and it was, like I said, 40-mile-an-hour winds. So we probably didn't appreciate it as much as we should have.
I think the thing I thought was cool was that those rocks had been there for 1,000 years. So Cooper has this thing where he thinks it's entertaining to throw a rock off of a cliff and be like, I'm the last one to ever touch this rock. It's silly, but it's probably also true. And I thought it was kind of neat that, like, you don't even have to throw it off of a cliff to do that. You can just set it in a circle on the ground, and then maybe it'll be there for 1,000 years. So that was kind of a neat thing. But again, super windy. It's a very short trail, so if the weather's working out better for you and you want something small, then that's definitely a great recommendation. But we did that, and then we went farther down the road into this area called Lockhart Ranch. So we weren't actually expecting very much, but this was probably our favorite part of this particular day.
Yeah, it was super cool. It was a late 19th century, early 20th century homestead by a single woman. It started out that way. At least she bought the land and basically raised cattle and horses and all livestock by herself because men told her she couldn't do it, so she decided she wanted to do it
Right.
in Wyoming, in the middle of nowhere, which was really impressive.
I think the thing that was the coolest though was this really allowed you to just get up close and personal with the actual buildings and kind of her life, because it wasn't like it would be in a national park. Like in a national park, things are roped off and everything's pretty and clean, and then they have like furniture if this is what it would look like, which, don't get me wrong, has like a really nice touch to it and adds a little bit more of appeal in a certain way. But this was cool because it straight up just looked like they had just left. Like there was no furniture left in any of the buildings, but they were there was like tools sitting around or doors that they had been meaning to put up or things like that. Everything was open. You could just walk around. There was still like horse equipment hanging up, but it felt like they had just kind of walked away. So that was really neat, that it was a little bit less polished and pristine and felt more real and authentic, in the sense of you could tell that they had to go, and it wasn't working out for them anymore. So they had moved on, and we really just got to walk around in it and experience it in a different way than I think you would in something more of like a national park. So we really loved that.
Another cool part is it was relatively recent in history. It was like maybe
Right.
100 years ago. I think they left in the 1930s.
Something like
Was
that,
the last
yeah.
time someone was living there. See, it was cool. You could see how the houses were built and how they've kind of evolved into where they are now, and
Right.
same with the shed and the stables and everything. So it was kind of cool to just see like not too long ago what it was like to live on a homestead versus you can see now just driving down the road.
Yeah, so we definitely recommend that. It's at the really top end of the south section of Bighorn Canyon. Bighorn Canyon split into two different sections, and you can't actually reach between the two. So quick caveat there, but it's at the top end of the south section, so it is a bit of a hike as far as driving time goes, but we definitely recommend. It was really cool. So we went from there and then went back to the local marina and had a drink overlooking the lake, and that was our evening. So it was a great time on Friday.
Then on Saturday, we left Louisville to go to Cody, Wyoming to find cowboy hats because we are in the great western state of Wyoming
We
where
felt
there's
like we
rodeos.
needed to get them.
And we wanted to feel like we belong. And we already have cowboy boots, so we just needed to complete the look with cowboy
Right.
hats.
So we'd actually been looking. That was one of the reasons we had gone up to Sheridan before our trip to Louisville. We'd gone through Buffalo and Sheridan. We'd been recommended both to try and find hats, and just were not able to find exactly what we were looking for, but specifically not able to find what we were looking for in our price range. Cowboy hats are more expensive than you probably realize. So
You can spend upwards of $700 plus on a cowboy hat easily.
and we did not want to spend that much money. So we ended up in Cody, which had a decent amount of selection, and we were able to find something we loved. So we were really excited about that. Maybe you'll see photos in this video or the next one.
Spent probably too much time than we were originally planning in Cody.
Yes.
Shopping for cowboy hats. It was really fun. Definitely worth it. Cody's a really cool town. We're going to stay in there later on in a couple weeks.
Right.
But at the time, we decided to just stop and get the cowboy hats and leave.
We wanted to make sure we had them before 4th of July, which is upcoming. So we're going to a rodeo that night, and you have to have a cowboy hat at the rodeo.
And then Saturday night, we were staying in a small town called Thermopolis, Wyoming, which has the world's largest mineral hot springs.
So it is kept at about 104 degrees. The hot springs is that you can actually sit and sort of swim in, more like sitting. And you're only allowed to sit in there for 20 minutes, which doesn't sound like very much time, but believe me, it is plenty. So it was like 94 degrees or something externally, and it was the only night we could go do it. So we went to the hot springs and sat in 104 temperature and did it for 20 minutes and felt like we were good. But the nice thing is it's free. So
And keep in mind, it's
Yeah.
also 90 degrees and sunny outside. So it's really hot getting in, and then when you get in, you're really hot, and when you get out, it's really hot again. So you're just sweating constantly for like 20, 30 minutes.
we thought it was so cool, but it definitely would be more fun to do whenever it was cold, because it's 104 year round. So definitely recommend that if you're interested in the area. And again, it was free, so that definitely adds kind of to the appeal whenever you're on more of a budget. So would definitely recommend doing it if you're on a budget. And then after that, we kind of explore the rest of this hot springs park. So this is a hot springs state park for Wyoming, and we were trying to find the bison because it's supposed to have the Wyoming state bison herd in this really tiny town in the middle of nowhere. Considering there's bison in so many places in Wyoming, I'm not sure why they're in Thermopolis, but this is the state bison herd. So we're driving around looking for them. Could not find them for like an hour. It is really not an organized area as far as the like back. There's zero signage, and sometimes you end up on a road and it's one way. But we did eventually find them kind of over a hill. So it was not our best bison viewing, but as we've learned with wildlife too, you never really know what you're going to get. So definitely recommend driving around back there. They might be right next to the road. For us, they were like over a cliff around a corner. But you might have a better experience. So yes, that was week 4.
Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and be sure to come back next week for week 5.